for those that don't know much about my work, I wrote my first book in 2000 and, I've written 6 books since, but my work is very much lived experience because I'm a recovering addict. I was a suicidal teen, domestic violence, sexual abuse, all that sort of stuff.
The United Nations have put mental health at the top of the list of priorities to address. No longer is it cancers and heart issues. It's mental health.
The other thing that we have, we see a lot of and thrown around is that sort of borderline personality disorder. And, as a newsflash, we all have personality disorders. Find me the perfect personality, find me the saint. Yeah. It doesn't exist.
I went to a mental health clinic about 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
Probably the best thing I ever did for myself.
People who develop addiction often have done it because they have had significant trauma or significant events that have helped them. They've had to find a way to cope.
My dad was alcoholic, and I grew up being determined not to be an alcoholic like my father.
What motivated me to actually take mental health seriously and actually get on top of it is I wanted to be the break in the family cycle.
But I heard this saying the other day and I loved it. Addiction is the teenager.
Being my age and not drinking, it's really difficult.
You don't wake up one day and say, I really want to grow up and be an addict. That's something that I aspire to do. You're doing it because you're protecting yourself, and you're doing it because it's something that you need to do to survive.
My addiction took me some very bad places. I accidentally overdosed twice, and that was from pills and booze and just not knowing what I was doing. And
end of grade 10, I started smoking on my own and stuff, and then I think grade 11 I started smoking a lot, and then just got progressively worse from there. Just smoke heaps of cones and sit at my computer and just play games, and it was I just smoked myself to sleep every night.
Really, I think what I've learned is you have to put those systems in place when you're well,
yes,
to be able to utilise them when you're not. Yeah. And that's hard for people.
It is.
Insanity is often, when you're in the grips of addiction, insanity is often an inability to make, a bad idea becomes a good idea.
And it doesn't stop unless we're ready for it to stop. And then you can step into recovery when you allow yourself to say, I'm not going to medicate myself anymore.
For people like you and I spent time in a psych ward when I got sober and put down drugs and alcohol because it had conveniently, and there's a use-by date to booze and drugs, and I certainly am not interested in judging anybody. Some people can recreationally use. I'm a raging addict. I couldn't. But when I put booze and drugs down, the sewage of my past that I had compartmentalised, it kind of all thawed out, and I couldn't kind of unpack it. And I had to spend time a bit like you, detoxing off a lot of the inner dialogue, because I've had a lot of dangerous people in my life, but the most toxic person I've ever had in my life has been me.
And depression cannot be, it's not something you could write in a book and, this is it, this is the script for it. It's weird, and it's different with everyone.
I don't think there's many people that you could ask, are you busy or are you stressed, that would tell you, no, I'm fine.
I suppose I had trust issues, I guess, maybe from my childhood, people kind of leaving, either my mum, having some issues, or my grandfather and uncle passing away, for whatever reason, they were leaving my life, and maybe that was the hurt and heartbreak, I suppose, so I found it really hard to trust people.
There's a very real and serious trauma, as traumatic as anything. Absolutely. If you take a baby away from the woman in whose tummy that child has lived for 9 months and suddenly put it in a bassinet and take it to live somewhere else.
This is where you have these people out there that are, and again, dare I say it, I think 90% of them are men, that, I'm holding it together for everyone, or I'm going to be doing this, I've got to be strong. You can be strong, but it is okay to just lose your shit every now and then.
And I've looked at my periods of depression, and some of them have been really debilitating, months in bed.
For me, it's always been, there were certainly times when I thought there's no way in hell that I'm going to be able to be a good father, because I am fucking cranky and sad.
2015, I think I lost 3 mates from suicide. Just saw no way out.
Men on the land or men in the city?
Men on the land,
right.
Yes. And
you don't wake up one day and say, I want to cut myself because it's going to feel good. I want to, repeatedly threaten to kill myself because I want to get attention. You don't do that. You don't make that conscious decision. It's something that you develop.
This negative treatment towards people who are suicidal. We saw a bit of a shift in blaming the person and treating suicide as a mental illness and seeing that there are other socio-cultural elements that impact and cause suicide. It's not about the individual being crazy or whatever.
Clinical people like yourself that back lived experience people like me, it just restores our faith that, we're a team and society does care.
Yes.
And there are becoming more and more people in that clinical sector that are not going to shame you, that are going to encourage you and respect you in your journey.
I was suicidal. I hated being fat because I felt in my head I wasn't what I looked like. I just never looked down.
And that was it for me. That was when I decided to try and end my life. And I remember calling a friend and saying, can you come look after my cat?
Herein lies the biggest problem. This is the thing we have confronting us with service provision, like emergency departments. When people come with suicidality, where do we put them? How do we treat them? We can't x-ray anything broken and we can't immediately and shaft them through to get that surgery that they need. So medical departments were set up for disease-based and mental illness-based responses, not for behaviour.
I had some internal problems, which was not construed. It's the onset of bowel cancer, and particularly after I got sacked, it was much worse. And I also contracted viral meningitis and encephalitis.
And then I had my girlfriends come over, we had some morning tea, and my hairdresser came over and we took some photos, and I shed some tears as she shaved my hair off. But can I tell you, it felt so good when I was raising that money. So that was my way of taking control of the hair loss and the cancer. It's always giving the finger to the cancer by, saying, you may have done this, but hey, I've just raised all this money for you.
So for some people, I think it's easier and it's less of a battle. Some people wear life like a loose garment. Some people like me are trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, it's like starting all over again.
Yep.
Everything I knew and thought was my life was not my life anymore.
A lot of anxiety come from not really loving the person I was. I had that chip on my shoulder like I spoke about before, or going to a crowded room or a restaurant or wherever I was going to. I knew I was a happy kid. I knew I grew up, I could see photos, and I knew I grew up somewhere along the line it changed, and I wasn't sure why. I wasn't sure if it was anxiety, depression, what was going on, but there was something that was just sticking with me.
That's it. I can't cope anymore because I'm not scared of spiders or snakes or anything like that. I'm scared of emotional pain.
The loss of a child. How old was your son when he passed?
He was 11 when he passed away, nearly 12. Valentine's Day, 1999. And I think you never recover from that.
Like all the terrible things we do because of an inability to stay present with the uncomfortable sensations.
And I suppose I grew up in a household that there were drugs, alcohol, violence, destructive behaviours. So
times are tough and we couldn't share them. Well, they were dead anyway, so all we could do was skin them, and I was driving utility around skinning sheep. And
at 8?
At 8 years of age.
Wow.
I remember him once saying to me, I think you tell your children you love them too much. And I said, Dad, that's because I was never told.
It would be a boring life if we were perfectly constructed and had nothing else but perfectness and this fluid sense of just being perfect. I don't think it ever exists, to be honest.
I'm a man that has high integrity, and if I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And I said to Rachel that I would stop, and I said, babe, I'm so sorry. And had inner conflicts there, and I used, and it was almost like a habit. I said to myself that I wasn't going to use, but the habit popped up again, and all the associations popped up again, and I said, "Oh, babe, I'm so sorry. How could you ever forgive me?" And she said, "Oh, it's not. You're always, you're forgiven from me. Can you forgive yourself?"
Yeah, wise woman.
And
keep her.
And I think you need to work on yourself regardless of different walk of life you've come from or what you've been through, and the more you work on yourself, the better off life's going to be.
I think there's an inherent starting position in all this, and that is that life is hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy, and there are going to be some really hard bits, and you're going to have to face them. And if you manage to escape unscathed, you're a very rare beast.
The 90-day mark and what that means for you, and where you started.
90 days was pretty hard at first. Like even considering getting 90 days was like, when I first got off drugs, I was like, going like half a day without drugs was like hard. So it's like getting to 90 days was just like impossible in my mind. But yeah, now it's kind of like, now I'm like looking at like 6 months, a year. It doesn't really even look that hard at all.
The social media aspect, and some of the best advice for young people going through that is just to get off social media.
Then I discovered that exercise was so fundamental for me, and of course, being an addict, I go hard at it, and I go really, really, and I push myself.
And a psychologist was, when I went to see her, she was angry at me because she said, "You have to look after your body."
Learning to love yourself means loving every part of yourself.
Something just went so calm, it's like click. And I was within me, and the calm and the peace and the happiness that I have never felt before. It's like I have come home.
It's been super relevant to the way that I parented my children, is that there will always be more moments.
Yes.
So there will always be more shit, but there'll always be so much more glory.
People, even though they might not admit it, they do have faith of some sort. But God alone, or whoever they worship, won't solve problems for you. You've got to want to solve them yourself. You want to start to solve them.
It's just all about taking ownership.
Yeah.
Taking responsibility for your own actions. No one. One of the things is talking about sweeping the sheds, because no one takes care of the All Blacks. The All Blacks take care of themselves.
I think for me, it's not about not giving a fuck. It's about giving a fuck about your self-respect.
Yeah.
And then other people's shit won't affect you as much. If your self-respect is, if you can validate yourself and be true to yourself, and live with a clear conscience and not be a prick, then hopefully that creates that inner strength where you don't actually care if somebody says something mean or does something to you.
If you find that it's gone a little bit further than it should have, then you need to reach out and get help. Because there's no shame in it, Cynthia. As a matter of fact, there's an immense power in it.
I think asking for help is definitely something that people don't do enough, or young people, because they don't think it's normal.
Yeah.
And I think that's certainly something people need to get in the habit of doing. It's like, I'm not doing okay. I need someone to talk to. I need help.
I get it. If you're watching this and you're alone and it's 2 a.m, find the friend who's not going to judge you and stand at your bed, and who's just going to go, all right, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to help you.
And the more you share your stories and lived experiences, the more people might reach out and ask for help themselves and get on to living a happier, healthier life, I guess.
You need to learn, and you never stop learning, and you never stop growing up.
Tears of joy. Barb's the first woman I met that cried tears of joy in front of me.
She always makes me cry. That's what the tissues are for.